Welcome everyone to VLGA Connect in the weekly newsroom segment with the CEO of the VLGA joining me, Kathryn Arndt. Hi, Kathryn.
Hi, Chris, and can I say good evening? We're actually recording this a little bit later than we normally would, but it is lovely to see you and to catch up on all the news of the week.
And look, it should be seamless for the viewer and the listener. They shouldn't be able to tell when we record this, but you're right. We're outside our usual recording schedules because both of us have had our schedules thrown out a little bit in the past few days. There's been lots happening. Can we perhaps talk about budget firstly? Because federal budget last week, state budget coming up this week. Lots of money from the federal budget for bridges, rail, roads, community infrastructure, water infrastructure projects. Just some of the headlines. The financial assistance grants, once again, they're going to prepay 50% of the FAGs are coming before 30 June, which is a good cash flow initiative for councils. I know you've been looking at some of the below the headline sort of things, which are really important too.
Well, absolutely. And I think the federal budget and certainly the media release and analysis that the Australian Local Government Association put out last week would give our viewers a good assessment of some of the new initiatives in the federal budget that impact the local government sector. Of course, from a Victorian perspective, we're all waiting for the state budget, which will be released on Thursday. But what I can comment on is that there was a media release from the state government yesterday that talked about an additional $44.1 million being allocated in the budget to assist and support children affected by family violence and sexual assault, and including as adolescents who use violence at home. So that was a welcome announcement, and of course we'll look forward to seeing the detail of that when it does come out in the budget papers on Thursday. I must also comment that I did note that an additional $1.3 million is being allocated in the budget to support people who are fleeing domestic violence, to enable them to find safe places for their pets as well, because that was an interesting, I guess, view. I mean, I hadn't really thought about that before, but of course, one of the observations made in the media release is that sometimes people are reluctant to leave violent situations because they're concerned about the welfare of a pet that might remain in the home. So again, looking forward to all of those initiatives that come through, on Thursday. And of course, we did have the Federal Minister for Local Government on the program a couple of weeks ago, Mark Colton, who spoke to some of those federal budget initiatives also.
He did indeed. I think that bucket of money to help with relocation of pets is a great thing. Why not? I feel like saying sometimes pets are people too, but they certainly think they are.
They certainly do think they are. I mean,
mine certainly do.
Yes. Now, before we go on to any more, I guess, local government news, although this is local government news, I would just like to congratulate you, Chris, Eddy, on your appointment as an administrator at the City of Whittlesea. Congratulations. And I think that the community is well served to have you as part of that group of administrators. You have such an incredibly important piece of work to undertake, and I believe your appointment continues through to 2024, when the council will then seek to go back to elected representatives being in place.
That's correct. Look, it's a real privilege to be appointed to that role. I'm really excited about it. I've already started spending quite a bit of time out there at Whittlesea, and really looking forward to working with that council and that community. There's a lot of really important work to be done over the next.
Absolutely. And I mean, as we all know, the role of an administrator is effectively taking on the role that an elected representative would undertake in their term. So it's a very important role, and we look forward to, I guess, perhaps where appropriate, hearing some of your observations about that. But more importantly, we're very pleased that you're able to continue to work with us to deliver VLGA Connect and other associated programs.
Thank you, and thank you for your patience in advance, because my schedule's been sort of thrown up in the air in recent days. Hence, we're recording this of an evening. We won't have to do that all the time, I hope. Talking about appointments, Kathryn, thank you very much for your kind words there. The new Commissioner for Equal Opportunity and Human Rights, we knew Kristen Hilton was stepping down after 5 years. The new Commissioner has been announced, and it's the new Commissioner is an existing Commissioner in effect.
That's right, it's Ro Allen, and we've had Ro on the program before, so we congratulate Ro, and we must have her back on the program to talk about, I guess, her priorities in this new role, and such an important role. And we, again, acknowledge the significant contribution that Kristen made in her 5 years as Commissioner. And
of course, Kristen's been on the program a couple of times as well. We're really grateful to all of the commissioners who've given us their time. While we're on that, Anna Cronin, the Better Regulation Commissioner, is coming up this week on VLGA Connect, so look out for that.
Fantastic. I mean, Anna led a piece of work a couple of years ago now looking at red tape in the planning system. I believe she's also working on some task force that look at the building and planning. And
that'll be the main topic of conversation this week. She's heading up that building system review process, which is just getting underway. We talked about on the program, I think, the appointment of that panel. So she's leading that work.
We did, and I caught up recently with Jude Munro, who we've also had on the program before. Jude's the chair of the Victorian Planning Authority, but has also been involved and appointed on some of those related task forces. And I believe also sitting on one that Anna is. And there's certainly a lot of recommendations that hopefully Anna will be able to talk to coming out of the work of those groups.
Now, still in Commissioner land, the historic truth-telling commissioners have been appointed. Now, we spoke with Geraldine Atkinson recently on another special edition about the First Peoples Assembly work, and she did point to this coming as a particularly significant step in the whole process.
Yes, so we congratulate and acknowledge the appointment of those commissioners. I think there were 3 appointed.
There are 4 actually, plus the chair. So Eleanor Burke, Professor Eleanor Burke is the chair. The other members are Dr. Wayne Atkinson, Ms. Sue Ann Hunter, Professor Maggie Walter, and Professor the Honourable Kevin Bell making up that commission.
And look, the VLGA is certainly very pleased that we'll be continuing to have conversations with the First Peoples Assembly, and Geraldine herself, when she was on the program, referred to that and the important role that local government do play, particularly when we come closer to the making of treaty and treaties. And, very pleased that we're able to have those conversations.
So many stories this week that have come into the newsroom, Kathryn. We can't do them all, but do want to mention this is hot off the press. The Victorian Ombudsman has released the outcome of a probe into how the 79 councils in Victoria handle the financial hardship provisions for ratepayers who are in financial hardship. And it's a real mixed scorecard that's come out of this process.
It is. I did see a story in the media today that touched on that. Unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to read the detail of the report. It's such a complex area, and I'll be very interested to read the report and hear from the Ombudsman. And in fact, we should mention that Deborah Glass, the Victorian Ombudsman, is coming onto our program to talk specifically to this report in coming weeks. But yes, as I said, a complex system. We do have a rate cap in place. Of course, there are also issues of, if a rate cap was not in place, the affordability for people anyway to pay rates. We have examples of residents who located particularly the inner city many, many years ago. They may have been new Australians immigrating to Australia. They're now older, but they're living in properties in the inner city that are, of course, from the way in which rates are calculated now, very expensive. So what's the affordability for those residents? not to mention the resident that was mentioned in this particular article this morning. But I got a sense reading sort of the top level of that release that the Ombudsman had identified an inconsistency across the sector with the way in which they apply hardship policies, for example. So very interested to read the report and hear from the Ombudsman on that.
That's exactly right. What she's saying is there are widely varying practices. So some, to be fair, have really good practices, engaging with financial counsellors, recognising family violence as a sign of hardship, etc. But her point is that others either don't have good policies in place, or they're very difficult to find and access, or in some cases they're just unfair and perhaps not offering people the full extent of options that are available to councils under the law. It certainly takes some reading, I think, to dig into this, and it's one of those pieces that I'm sure the sector will be looking at very closely to see, hopefully, to see how we can do better.
Indeed. And I'm sure, knowing yourself and Steve Cooper, that you'll talk about it perhaps in a little more detail in the governance update this week also. Absolutely,
we will. Can I just give a plug to last week's episode, because you can go back and watch it any time. It's just about our most watched or fastest watched episode, and it's because we unpacked the Kingston Probity Review. I'm not sure if you read that, Kathryn.
Yes,
that
look, report. I did see that.
Yeah, what a great piece of work from that council to be on the front foot and proactively look at its own processes in light of the themes that are coming out of Operation Sandon, which of course is yet to be completed, and we don't really know what the wash up from that is going to be. But I think it's a terrific example of how councils can be really proactive in that space and understand, are there things that we're doing that we can do better in terms of our transparency and good process.
Yeah, look, you're entirely right, Chris. A great example of a council being proactive and really understanding the governance responsibilities of that council. Very reassured and very reassuring and pleasing to see that some of the recommendations that that independent reviewer provided to council included many of the topics that the VLGA, of course, talk about in our councillor development programs. So the concept of ethics training and transparency and integrity, and building better relationships between the council officers and the elected representatives. So again, as you mentioned, if our viewers haven't caught up with that, it's well worth watching last week's governance episode.
I've noticed a lot more downloads of the podcast version too. I don't know what that says. Perhaps they're sick of looking at our faces, but they do want to hear what we have to say. I don't know. The jury's out.
Perhaps a little easier to listen to a podcast while you're on the treadmill or running from one meeting to the next. I'm not sure.
That's very true. That is, but the option is there for people to choose, of course. Probably get to the classifieds now, Kathryn. I see leading the agenda is about to launch for your new season this year, and I'm very pleased to have a role to play in that as well, because we're going to be talking about audit committees.
That's right, and everything you were afraid to ask. So that's scheduled.
I'm not sure people are too afraid to ask about it, but it's a catchy phrase.
Well, look, that's right, and perhaps they are. I mean, anyway, that's the topic. Very, looking forward to being able to have a face-to-face event on the 9th of June.
9th of July.
9th of July. I thought the 9th of June may have been a little soon. I apologise for that. Looking forward to that. It will be at Pitcher Partners in Dockland, so very accessible on public transport, as that venue is above Spencer Street Station. So keep a lookout for more information. We do have a really high calibre panel lined up for that as well.
Register on the VLGA website. It's almost National Reconciliation Week, and in line with that, the Heart Awards are about to be announced for another year.
Yes, well, the winners, the finalists have been announced, and of course we're having our awards ceremony on the 4th of June. That's perhaps where I'm getting my June and July's mixed up. So that's in a couple of weeks. We have the Minister for Local Government opening that event, and it's always a delightful event. And of course, we work to deliver that with our partner Reconciliation Victoria, And I imagine they'll be very busy also with other work during Reconciliation Week, which I think starts next week on Thursday, the 27th of May.
Indeed. All right. So lots coming up, lots of news this week. Hopefully we've done that some justice and we can point people to more information on all of those stories. Kathryn, thank you. Always good to chat. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the week.
Yep. Good to chat to you, Chris. Enjoy your evening.
Kathryn Arndt is the CEO of the VLGA, joining us for our regular newsroom feature here on VLGA Connect.